So a little bit of history here will help. So in the year 1998, the Supreme Court created an organization called Environmental Protection and Control Agency. 1998, so long back, 23 years back. This was functioning till about 2020. This was functioning. EPCA was functioning till 2020. Yeah. In 2020, what did the government do? The government brought an ordinance. To do what? To replace the Environmental Protection and Control Agency with Commission for Air Quality Management. So far, so good. 1998 Supreme Court, again similar. The PIL and a couple of other cases. There was this, if you remember, in Taj Trapezium, I had mentioned about this case, the Mehta versus Union of India case. So it was somewhat a fallout of that case, and similar case around the same time, 96 to 98. The Supreme Court came up with a lot of judgments on environmental laws. So in that, EPCA was created specifically for Delhi NCR region. That was functioning for 2020. The government said, I'll come to the reason part a little later. In 2020, the government said we are replacing this with Commission for Air Quality Management. So they first brought an ordinance, and that ordinance got expired because there is the 6 weeks rule for the ordinance to be made into a law and all. So first time the ordinance expired. Then once again, a bill was introduced. And this bill has been passed by both the houses, and we now have the Commission for Air Quality Management that is present. Now, there are subtle, I would say, undercurrents between the judiciary and the executive here, if you look at it. Because what is Environmental Protection and Control Agency? It is monitoring the pollution level in Delhi, and it needs to submit what is called as a status report to the Supreme Court on a regular basis. It needs to submit a status report to the Supreme Court on a regular basis. Now, somewhere down the line, the governments, I use the word governments because across party lines, they felt that the Supreme Court was perhaps doing a role which ideally should be performed by the executive. Don't you think so? Monitoring of pollution on a regular basis, and Supreme Court has been doing this for 22 years. So you can see that there is a slight tussle between the executive and the judiciary, and slowly the government was just waiting for the right opportunity. There were some complaints on EPCA on the manner of function. They said there are only 2 people in EPCA who kind of call the shots. The EPCA is not effective. We need a more powerful agency, and EPCA is not a statutory agency because it's a Supreme Court appointed agency. Of course, even that is powerful, but not as powerful as a statutory agency. So because of this, at least that's the official reason, EPCA was replaced with a statutory organization called Commission for Air Quality Management. Okay, broadly that's the background. So now you don't have EPCA, now you have only Commission for Air Quality Management. Is this clear? So EPCA was not statutory, and it did not have penal provision. Means if someone is not complying with air quality norms, it could not impose penalty, which is this point. That it not having a penal provision. Monitored by Supreme Court directly. Ordinance I have mentioned, this I have mentioned. Okay. So what did the government do, or what was the objective of the government? So the objective was to create an overarching body. Overarching, you understand the meaning of overarching? Means all encompassing. Means a body that spreads over a larger area. To do what? To consolidate all the monitoring bodies and bring them on one platform so that air quality management can be carried out in a comprehensive platform. The first thing is it's a all-encompassing body to consolidate the existing monitoring bodies. Okay, and the second point also mentions, at least that's how the government will say, it wants to relieve the Supreme Court for having to constantly monitor pollution. Okay, so this is a very polite way of saying Supreme Court, we know what to do. So you please don't get into our role. But obviously, when you communicate to them, you should not communicate it harshly. And I think as future civil servants, you should also learn this habit of communicating tough message in very simple language. Yeah. For example, um, especially this is very important for those aspiring for foreign service. You'll have really tough negotiations, but when you are in front of camera, you still smile. It's not easy, I can tell you. Yeah. Sometimes we are so emotional that what we feel is there on our face. But as a civil servant, you cannot afford to be so. You cannot afford to do so. Because imagine you're you're like a district collector and you have some serious family problem and you're just morning you're sitting, let's say Janta Darbar, let's say, yeah, something like Janta Darbar, where you're getting petitions from the people of your district and then you're trying to solve the problem. What has happened in your family should not reflect on your face. Yeah. If it does, the person who has come to give you the petition, he may say, "Sir, can I help you? You seem to be a little worried." That should not happen. Yeah, because that is where the character of the person comes into picture. How well he or she is able to manage emotions. Yeah. So I'm slightly digressing, but they say that of all managements, yeah, there is a very famous management guru. His name is Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker. Yeah. So he's written a lot of books. So one book I've not read all his books, but one book I was really fascinated was, and the name of the book was Managing Self. This also I did not study fully. I've studied the summary, the book summary. It's very interesting. Managing Self. So why I'm telling this whole story is when you are a civil servant, the language that you use, even when you disagree, is very important. Very, very important. Yeah. That kind of defines your personality. That kind of defines your character. Okay. Good. So let's move on to the next part. What are all the various powers of the commission? So a lot of points I've mentioned. Let's look at some of the key points here. Okay. The first thing, and you can confidently say this, most powerful air pollution monitoring body. By the way, this is what? This is not all India. Huh? This is only NCR. And they have added a word called adjoining areas. Okay, so its jurisdiction is limited to NCR and adjoining areas. Most powerful. Now, the second thing it says is its rulings will override that is contained in another law. Which means if there is a conflict between what, let's say, what it means is, suppose, one practical example I'll tell you. Suppose the Delhi government says, when I say Delhi government, the Delhi state government, the Kejriwal government says that stubble burning is the reason why Delhi air pollution is high, and therefore, it champions the cause that the stubble burning has to be reduced. Now, this commission says that the major reason for this is not stubble burning. We have found it out. It is vehicular emission. So, by the power of this commission is such that it can override what any one state government says. And NCR has several state governments. You have UP, you have Rajasthan, you have Haryana, and somewhat Punjab is also not very far. So this the jurisdiction falls in all of these parts of all of these states. Okay. Commission will have powers for protecting and improving the quality. That's fine. Restrict industry. Yeah. So this is the penal provision what we were talking about. This is the penal provision. What can it do? It can do random inspection and it can close down an industry or it can cut its power or water supply. So now we are talking of the penal and enforcing provision of this Commission for Air Quality Management. Okay. So clearly the purpose seems to be two. The first purpose that the government has brought about this is to have a commission with teeth. You understand the meaning of teeth? With teeth means it can bite when it is required. And the second is to relieve Supreme Court or try to reduce the role of Supreme Court in pollution management. Because at the end of the day, no government really likes that the Supreme Court enters into a lot of activities. Yeah. In fact, 2 days before, I'm sure some of you would have read the same thing. I just opened the Hindu newspaper. The first page top, not the lower bottom, first page, the first half there were 3 news articles, all were related to Supreme Court. One was Supreme Court ordering an ex-judge of, I don't know, Punjab court or someone to probe the Lakhimpur Kheri violence case. Then there was 2 more. I think one was on pollution and one was on something else. I was like, wow. So it was Supreme Court in the front pages of the newspaper, in the first half of the front page of the newspaper. Yeah. So clearly, the government also sometimes feels the heat and feels the Supreme Court, it is better to be part of the interpretation of law rather than forming the law or implementing the law. Because there are a couple of things: forming the law, legislature; implementing the law, executive; interpreting the law is judiciary. Yeah. So sometimes there is that these are not watertight compartments, and many times the executive feels that Supreme Court ventures into an area of the executive. Okay. Yeah, composition. So this is one hell of a composition, I must admit. So the first impression or first thing that you need to remember about this composition is it's very diverse. Very diverse. And why I say very diverse, you will understand it. Right? So who are all, once again, such things becomes very favorite for films because this organization has been just formed in 2021, which means, for 2022, it becomes a potential question. So what are the things that it says? So one, it requires a full-time chairperson, 15 years of environmental protection or pollution control, or administrative experience not less than 25 years. Which means it can be headed by a person who is technical, which means a top-notch scientist. He can head it. And going by this criteria, who do you think can head it? Administrative experience not less than 25 years. Which category of person do you think will be eligible for this? You guys will be eligible. Yeah, Indian Administrative Service guys. Yeah, secretary level, civil servant, exactly. Secretary level, additional secretary or secretary level, civil servant. So basically, I'm saying it is the IAS. Usually, sometimes maybe IRS also, but usually the IAS guys who will be who can head it. Yeah, additional secretary to secretary level. Additional secretary for sure. In 25 years, in 18 to 20 years, you become joint secretary if your performance is very good. And in 25 years, you are for sure an additional secretary. Maybe in some case, it could be a secretary also. So all these I'm talking with respect to the union government. Additional secretary in union government. You could be a principal secretary in the state government. So there is a slight difference. When you say secretary at the center and secretary at the state, they are slightly different. So all this is I'm talking of union government. Okay. So one is so which means either a technical person can head it or an IAS can head it. That's point number one. Second is, why do I say this is very diverse? Look at the ministry officials. One official from Environment Ministry. So this is kind of logical because the whole thing is about pollution control and there is a link to Environment Ministry. Then there can also be members from ministries like Agriculture, Industry, Transportation, Commerce. Why? Because transportation, if you need some assistance on transportation related matters, it's better to have a representative. So from a ministry point of view, you have environment, you have agriculture, industry, transportation, commerce, many ministries. That's the first point. So these two are somewhat related. Okay. Now, who are the other members? The other members is 5 ex officio members, which means chief secretaries of the states around NCR. So they become ex officio. Ex officio means by the virtue of occupying the office of a chief secretary, they become members of it. Why do you need them? Because pollution does not know state boundaries. Haryana would have done something which would have impacted Delhi. Rajasthan would have done something which could impact Delhi. Therefore, taking the states on board is very important. Okay. Then you have a full-time member who is a joint secretary in the union government. Then you have technical members who are experts in air pollution. Technical member from CPCB and even ISRO. So, sometimes in films it helps to know points like this. It slightly strikes your attention. What ISRO of all the organizations? Of course, ISRO. Because, as we said last time, I think Bhavna had responded, for pollution-related things, for forest cover, you need remote sensing satellites to correlate the data. So before taking any decisions, you may want inputs from all of them so that whatever decision you take, it is complete and it has the buy-in of all stakeholders. CPCB is not very difficult to understand, so they will also be there. In addition, They are also members from NGO, in air pollution. And representatives of, who is this guy? National Institution for Transforming India. Yeah. So we all know that. So there is also a representative from Niti Aayog. So if you look at it, you have an IAS or an environmentalist who is at the top, chairperson, and you have members from states, you have members from ministries, which is environmental, commerce, agriculture, industry. Then you have joint secretary, that's fine. Then you have independent experts, who is an air pollution expert. Then you have members from CPCB and ISRO. Then you have a member from Niti Aayog. Then you have someone from the NGOs. So as you can see, it's very complex. Administrative, scientific, government, NGO. Yeah. So they have tried to make this as comprehensive as possible, so that whatever decision is taken, the decision is you can always say that hey, it was not one person.